Welcome to this explainer. I am incredibly thrilled you're tuning in today because we are tackling something absolutely profound. We're looking at the architecture of purpose, that core existential theme of finding your true internal direction. Now, just to be clear, this isn't about time management or the latest productivity hacks. This is about fundamentally understanding the driving force behind your daily actions. It's like looking at the underlying blueprint of your life and figuring out what you're actually building.
Let's just hit pause for a second. I want to ask you a very direct question. Why do you do what you do? And I want you to look way beyond just your job title or what people expect from you, or even that paycheck that magically hits your bank account every couple of weeks. Why do you wake up in the morning and give your absolute most valuable resources, your time, your energy, your life, to the things you do? Honestly, most people never even stop to seriously ask themselves this.
All right, let's dive right into our first section, the daily routine trap, or as I like to call it, the unexamined life.
It always starts so small, doesn't it? You wake up, you go to work, and you come home totally exhausted. Maybe you binge a show just to numb your brain for an hour or two. Then you wake up and repeat that exact same routine tomorrow. Suddenly, weeks go by. Before you even realize it, those weeks seamlessly blend into months that just pass by without you noticing. And then, years vanish. A massive chunk of your life is just gone, lost to this relentless cycle that you never actively chose to be in.
But here's the absolute kicker, the massive takeaway from all of this. The problem isn't actually the hard work, it isn't the heavy responsibility on your shoulders, and it isn't even the struggle itself. The real problem is living without direction. You see, human beings can endure incredible hardship when they know the why behind it. But when there's no underlying purpose fueling all that effort, man, every single challenge just feels so much heavier. Every setback hurts that much more. And enduring all of that without a true purpose is exactly what makes every Monday morning feel like a crushing burden.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, Escaping versus Creating and the Illusion of Change.
Look, we all do this. We play the blame game. We spend years genuinely believing that our unhappiness comes from external circumstances. We blame the boss, we blame the company, the state of the economy, the city we live in, or those opportunities we feel we were unfairly denied. I'm kind of gently holding up a mirror to us all right now because we all have this built-in tendency to shift responsibility away from ourselves. But think about it. If all these external things magically changed tomorrow, would you actually know what kind of life you want to build instead? For sure, most people wouldn't.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the massive difference between just running away from pain and actually building toward a clear vision. Escaping discomfort is entirely driven by fear. You just know what you want to get away from. But pursuing purpose, that is driven by vision. You know what you want to create. Escaping is simply not the same as pursuing.
And this right here is exactly why people make these massive life overhauls. Uprooting their entire lives to move across the country, starting a brand new job or ending a relationship, only to wake up feeling exactly the same 3 months later. Clarity matters way more than speed. You can run 100 miles an hour on a treadmill, but you aren't actually going anywhere. Changing external situations just leaves you with the exact same internal confusion if you haven't taken the time to gain personal clarity. The external scenery changed, sure, but your internal direction never did.
Moving right along to Section 3, let's talk about the cost of meaning and the price of a worthwhile goal.
Here is a hard truth. Absolutely everything has a cost. Freedom has a cost. Growth has a cost. Success has a cost. Literally, even peace has a cost. Sometimes it's the cost of having to bite your tongue and ignore your incredibly noisy neighbors instead of starting a full-blown feud. The goal in life isn't to miraculously avoid suffering, because every single positive outcome comes with an unavoidable price tag. Every meaningful life requires some form of sacrifice.
So the real question, the absolutely crucial question is, what are you willing to suffer for? Yeah, it's a heavy one, isn't it? It directly challenges this modern cultural desire we all have to avoid discomfort at all costs. The question isn't whether or not you're going to suffer in life. The real question is choosing what is actually worthy of your suffering.
Because, let's be honest, our modern culture is completely obsessed with these endless, futile searches for the easiest shortcut, the fastest possible result, and doing the absolute least amount of effort. But reality? Reality simply doesn't honor shortcuts. The truth is that anything truly valuable requires absolute commitment. Anything meaningful requires deep responsibility, and anything lasting requires serious discipline.
All right, Section 4. Discipline outlasts motivation. This is the true engine of progress.
You see, discipline isn't just something that magically appears after you feel motivated. Actually, scratch that. It's what carries you forward when that motivation completely vanishes. Motivation is temporary. It's just a quick spark. Discipline is the heavy-duty engine that keeps your car moving down the road when that spark goes out and things get incredibly tough. We all have those heavy days, and I want to just validate that struggle for you right now. There are going to be days when your progress feels literally invisible. Days when that little voice of doubt in your head becomes absolutely deafening. Days when throwing in the towel and quitting seems so much easier than continuing. But listen to me. Those heavy, heavy days are the exact moments that define who you are.
I want you to really let this sink in. Character is not built when things are easy. Character is revealed when things become difficult. That hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The people who build extraordinary lives aren't necessarily the smartest, and they definitely aren't always the luckiest. They're simply the ones who continue moving forward when everyone else decides to stop. Our true nature gets completely exposed during our hardest trials.
Ultimately, life is all about choosing the struggles that are actually worth enduring. A meaningful life isn't achieved by somehow successfully dodging all hardships. I mean, that's impossible anyway. A meaningful life is achieved by deliberately, consciously choosing the right struggles, the ones that truly align with the life you want to build.
Which leads us right into our final section, Section 5, Choosing Your Purpose and How to Build Something Meaningful.
So what actually transforms just ordinary, repetitive work into a purposeful mission? Well, effort becomes meaningful when it contributes to something way beyond your own immediate comfort, when it actively helps others, when it firmly aligns with your personal values. Think of it like the classic difference between a bricklayer who just sees a giant pile of heavy rocks and one who sees themselves building a magnificent cathedral. They're doing the exact same physical labor, but one person's effort reflects something so much deeper than just chasing a paycheck or a bit of status.
But I've got to warn you about something, because we see this happen all the time. Achievement without meaning just feels completely empty. You can reach the final destination, hold up the trophy, get literally everything you thought you wanted, and still sit there wondering why fulfillment never showed up. Without an underlying why, the victory at the end is just hollow.
So, how do we actually find that why? We're going to walk through a structured framework called the 4 levels of honesty. Finding your purpose requires radical, uncompromising honesty with yourself. Step 1, you've got to be honest about who you are today. Step 2, honest about what you truly value. Step 3, painfully honest about what you are currently avoiding. And Step 4, honest about what you are actually capable of becoming.
Now, gaining all that internal clarity, it's not going to create magic overnight. But what it does do is fuel consistent action. And consistent action, repeated day in and day out, fundamentally changes your decisions, it shifts your priorities, it completely rewires your daily habits, and ultimately, it transforms your entire future. Look, the world really doesn't need any more distracted people just endlessly chasing the next shortcut. What it desperately needs is people willing to build something meaningful. People who take real responsibility, who keep their word, and who boldly commit to keep growing, even when, especially when, that growth is incredibly uncomfortable. So, as we wrap up, I want you to stop focusing on what you're trying to escape and instead ask yourself this: what are you moving toward? What kind of life are you actually trying to create? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today.